Of all the worlds you could have conquered, you had to choose mine. Such power wasted on a feeble imagination. For regret. Damn you!
I loved your work, Piety. It was you I wasn't very fond of.
Let me tell your future. A fool tries to turn lead to gold, but a deft hand takes it by force. Dark runes skitter across the pages of the tome, concealing the Whisperer's allies. The Plague Moor's followers feed on the flesh of the dead, a desecration of the Mother's work.
You have claimed the most worthy of prey, Makoru. Piety, the mistress of corruption. I'm not saying the war is over, but you've given Wraeclast a much-needed respite. Because of you, this land lives to see another dawn. And don't forget that you've done Grigor and Clarissa a justice of some magnitude. They will wish to speak to you. Be well.
Piety's off to meet the Maker, is she? I'd love to be a fly on the wall of that little chat. Bring me back something nice, huh?
Wherever he is, I'm sure Tolman knows what you've done. I know you didn't do it for him, or for me. It doesn't matter. Piety's reign of cruelty is over. Thank you. Maramoa, I've heard that the Karui have this philosophy. Makanui, the way of the warrior. I don't think you could get any more Makanui than her. She took it upon herself to look after me, before Tolman arrived. Saved my skin more than once. I'm fine with that. Beats being on her bad side. Hagen likes to think he was my kind old uncle back in Theopolis. Granted, the work he gave me saved my parents and I from starvation. This was after my father lost the family fortune at the card table, and we had to give up the manor in the country for a flea box in Theopolis. But he's not half as generous as he makes out. When Hagen gives you something, you can be damned sure that he's getting his pound of flesh in return. No one should have to go through what Grigor has. I help him as much as he'll let me, but he's a proud one, and so he should be. He's survived what has destroyed too many of us. Gravicius dined with us once. This was before my father's gambling debts caught up with him. I dined with him again in Theopolis prison the night before my exile. He wasn't so polite that time. Thank you. That's one memory I can now put to rest. On the fall of the Empire, the historians are deathly silent. After the Purity Rebellion, the Kingdom of Kalm blockaded Oriath, preventing any trade or correspondence with the mainland. It's said that Kalm planned to invade. Only when the Karui retreated did Oriath get any news from Wraeclast, but by that time there wasn't really anyone left to tell the tale. I know. So strange that stone and metal should move and live as you and I. Still, I read that Titus's sculptors used to soften their materials with thaumatic sulfite, a byproduct of gem refining. It's the only connection that I can fathom between the Cataclysm and the living sculptures of Sarn. Titus thought that the gemling was the pinnacle of human progress. These glorious gems have brought us within spitting distance of godhood, he once said. The High Templar at the time, Vol of Febris, thought they were a perversion. He wanted the Empire made pure, cleansed of the stain of thaumaturgy. You look at Sarn and tell me which one you think was right. And while you're out there, look out for monkeys. No, not those bloody monkeys from Frisia. These ones are painted on the walls. I think you'll find them enlightening. Be careful.
Piety dies amongst her abominations, her warped dream taunting her, maddeningly out of reach. As a poet, I'm fond of that creed of justice. Here, the execution... Unfortunately, Piety was simply a puppet of a greater force. You've cut the strings, but the master remains. Dominus. That key you've picked up, I heard the blackguards talk of it. It's the one key to the Scepter of God on the northern edge of the blackguard encampment. Only Piety was permitted to carry it. Dominus accessed his laboratory at the summit of the tower via a pulley system rigged to the outside wall. That way will be barred to you, and I heard of no one, not even Piety, going in or coming out of the lower levels. Go with care, Exile. I can't imagine what's inside that tower if even Piety and Dominus feared to tread its steps.
When Piety was experimenting on me, my consciousness was mercifully fleeting. In those moments of numbing darkness, I met a presence. Intelligence, power, immensity beyond the limits of my pitiable mortal senses. To this creature, I was but a raindrop falling into the sea. I heard Piety speak to her lackeys of the beast. It is the source of her thaumaturgy and the object of her ambitions. I believe Piety's beast and that dark entity are one and the same. Wherever it is, whatever it is, the beast is the cause of my malformation. It would not be a stretch of reason to consider the beast the source of all malformation.
Goodbye.
Too much clutter.
Now there's a familiar face. Before you say anything, yes, I did try to kill you. Inexcusable. I allowed pragmatism to overcome honor in a moment of desperation. Please accept my deepest apologies. And what do you say? Can the two of us make a fresh start? Marvelous! Now, as you've clearly noticed, the All-Flame has given me another respite from oblivion. Alas, it's a partial success only. I am neither man nor spirit, living nor dead. A state that comes with some rather frustrating restrictions. I know we've only just been reacquainted, but to put no finer point on it, I need your help. Interested, are we? Oh, splendid! In return, I have a gift or two that I may bestow upon you with a click of my translucent fingers. All you need do is furnish me with a crystal decanter and a juicy piece of fruit. Two humble items that remain agonizingly out of reach for a man in my peculiar situation. Will you look at that? The decanter spiritus. As exquisite today as when I found it all those years ago. You may fault the man, but you can't fault his craftsmanship. I'm sure you've heard of Malachi by now. Ever the heterodox, he sought otherworldly inspiration by imbibing a substance called ghost wine. For the purpose, he created the decanter spiritus. I found it on my last visit here. Liquid placed in this crystal decanter becomes quasi-apparitional in nature. I'm sure you can glean the decanter's usefulness to me. Conventional liquids simply don't hit the spot. I am one sorely parched revenant. I hid the decanter spiritus in the marketplace so as not to cause temptation for the less morally steadfast in my crew. Look to the carved... Emperor Chittus was stabbed in the posterior by his own Lord Mayor on the eve of the Purity Rebellion. Chittus's grieving gemlings buried him in the Imperial Gardens, and a plum tree was planted upon his resting place, so that his mourners might taste of his glory for years to come. I found that tree, and one of my men tasted its fruit. I've never seen so much agony crammed into such a brief moment. This may seem a peculiar request, but please bring me one of Chittus's plums. This current form comes with rather frustrating restrictions. It's a small improvement on my last incarnation, but I'm a man who used to poke his sticky beak into the furthest corners of the world. Now I can barely cross the road. It was no mean feat getting here from Siren's Cove, I can tell you. So here's the truth of it. I intend to sup upon mine own death. Oh, fear not. The All-Flame will resurrect me, and with luck, will restore my full freedom. But for that to happen, I must die. And in such a manner as to excite the All-Flame to utmost ferocity. I am convinced that only the fruit of Chittus can provide a demise of sufficient tragedy. Life is full of painful choices, is it not? I visited Sarn some 30-odd years ago. Those ghasts, the Undying, you call them, scurried up from the sewers near the river and slaughtered all but a few of my most stalwart lads. Oh, they're a foul parody of humanity, those Undying. Nothing in common with a fine, upstanding revenant like myself.
you.